Welcome to the Reinvent You show. I'm George.
I'm Azlan. It's about seeing everyday challenges
Differently.
Welcome everybody to the 14th episode of the Reinvent You show. I'm Azlan and we've got George here. Good morning, George. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling good.
Why? What's with the Asian accent?
Was that Asian?
I think so.
I reckon that was a hybrid between Indian, Asian.
I am feeling good.
I am feeling very good.
Yeah.
Do you know when you say, hello, everybody, you reminded me of that bald chef dude. What he does is he creates the best steaks, and he experiments and he goes, hello, everybody. You sound
really?
like
Did I
that.
sound like that?
Yeah.
I need to Google this guy.
Yeah.
But thank God I've still got my hair.
Yeah.
But this week's...
Thank God. Oh, damn it.
Sorry.
Thank God. Shit. How long has it
Damn
been
it.
gone?
I didn't mean... Oh, that was funny. This week's biohack is something that I've learned about procrastination. If it doesn't take longer than 2 minutes, do it right now. So if you see a little clutter there and it takes you like 10 seconds to put it somewhere else, do it now. Because what happens is if it keeps compounding, you get into this state of mental clutter. So whatever you see, no matter how small it is, just do it now. Your keys, man, put it into the where it needs to be. Just do it then.
It sounds like you're training people to be OCD, but tolerate nothing out of place. Do it immediately. Be obsessed with it. No, but I reckon there's definitely a lot of wisdom in saving your procrastination for quality thinking.
Yeah.
And just do the little things that take little effort, but avoid the nonsense of things just compounding.
And some people, they let it compound to a point where it's so overwhelming and then you do nothing about it. I like clean spaces because it allows me to operate in an efficient way.
Yeah.
So when everything is clean, everything is great, I'm like, one less thing to worry about. Let's go with the creative stuff, so.
Yeah, tip of the week. Very cool. I had an interesting experience recently with a gentleman that said to me, I'm going to get diagnosed to see if I've got ADHD.
Ooh.
Right. So then, he was explaining to me that it's hard for him to focus and then he gets fidgety a lot. And he says things like, I forget things all the time, that I shouldn't forget. And it's so hard to be present, in different things. And I said, okay, well, your brain thinks it's important not to focus on the things it's focused on, and it thinks you should feel a certain way. So have you tried to lean into that? So then I asked this question. I go, hey, have you tried to meditate with no brain training, no music, no nothing, just pure silence, and you be super still? And he looked at me like I was an alien. He said, what? No, I have never, ever done that. So this guy's in his probably mid-30s, and he's never, ever tried to sit still with his eyes closed and just learn to just be. And I said, okay, well, I want you to do that because your brain will hate it. And your brain is going to get a picket line of protesters. Each sign will be, you need to think of this, and you need to think of that.
Look at me.
Look at this shiny thing.
Yep.
But you got your eyes closed, you're going to miss it. And yeah, he did it. He actually did do it. But anyway, before he did it, he did it within 12 hours, he tried. But even me understanding how he would start to nod or he would start to tap his feet, that kind of fidgety stuff.
Oh, I know all about it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's good that I'm talking about it because we should explore this, right?
Okay.
I could relate to it, to a point. And so I started to move my mind into the body of someone needing to rock backward and forward or shake, because that's how you do it. if you want to understand what someone's going through, you emulate as much as possible their physiology. And strangely, your body's altered state will start to influence how your mind thinks. And you're able to then say, are you actually going through this and this? And are you feeling this? And they go, yeah. It's because you went into the full mindset and the body that comes with it. But you worked backwards. You copied the physiology and then waited for what happens to your mind from that physiology.
Makes sense. It's like method acting.
It is because it's like the body and the mind, it's a coherent unit. So if the body's behaving in a certain way, of course it's circumstance relevant too. So, fidgety in one context could be not fidgety in another context. So I started to sense that there was a restlessness, there was a boredom, all this sort of stuff. And we started to explore it together, right? Ultimately what was coming out was there's a sense of suppressing emotion. And I said to him, there may be PTSD.
Suppressing emotion.
Anyway, when he did the meditation, I got an email this morning from him telling me all his experiences from that meditation. What popped for him, firstly, he sent 2 emails, one of them about the meditation and the struggle with it, and the second one was suddenly he became aware of what emotions he was suppressing. So isn't it interesting? Just that little effort of sitting still just created the door ajar to finally start to connect to what he had been suppressing. And it was anger. It was anger at things that were really wrong and potentially harming people in the industry that he was in. Angry at himself for allowing himself to be forced to be doing roles that he shouldn't, that were beyond his qualifications and capability, that endangered other people. And then he realized he's had a pattern of this anger suppression where he just ignores it, but then it shows up in fidgetiness. You do you know what I mean? It's like you're holding it down, and then eventually you start to kind of like, you start to shake, you start to tap your pen, you start to do all open and close shit, and it's because why are you on edge? What are you holding down? Where is the inner peace? Why can't you just be? Because you're holding stuff down you refuse to look at. And then what do? You go down to the ADHD store to get diagnosed.
And then you take drugs to nerf it.
Yeah. And do they work? Yes.
Wow.
They do work, but they come with side effects. But they do work, but
the underlying.
Where did the suppressed emotion, how did that get sorted?
Yeah,
it didn't. Problem. You're just doing a patch-up job on yourself. And I thought our feelings were important. I thought our ability to reason with ourselves back to peace was important. But apparently it isn't. Just go to the ADHD store and get diagnosed for your nice pack of pills. Just sort yourself out.
And get that label now, because there is in the corporate level, if you're diagnosed with neurodiversity, you get extra bonus, I think.
I know, it's incentivized, I know.
Yeah, like don't fire him because he's mentally something's...
Don't fire him because he's suppressing emotions and not representing his inner feelings properly.
Masking it with pills.
And his bad coping where he can't focus and he can't do a good job and follow through on time, we're going to have to just work around that. Like look, I think, although we're doing it wrong, I think we're coming from a good place. So in other words, should you hold space for someone who's struggling and allow them to belong in a role, and then create scaffolding around them so that they can function despite their limitations? You know what I mean? Yes, to a point. But Do you just simply decide that that person's got this problem and that's just how they are, and that person's got that problem, that's just how they are? You know, if you solve problems with just chemicals alone, it means you're looking at the person's identity as just a chemical composition. It's like, hi, you're just a bag of chemicals and your chemical composition's compromised. Oh, that's okay. Go and get a chemical balancing solution for your chemical composition issues.
Yeah, how twisted is that?
Did you see what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and it's the same as psychology. You've got personality disorders because you're just a bag of personality traits, and some of them are just inherited that are damn shit and dysfunctional. So you just need to go and learn a bunch of coping mechanisms. And maybe we can pop a pill with that as well to help the chemicals. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's just looking at the lens of who you are, and then trying to fit the tools with that.
Yeah.
But if you took a step back, who are we? Why? What makes us whole? What makes us disconnected to ourselves? It's. And we've talked about it a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, the entity politics.
But when I was taking you through that journey, just then, that story, you were relating, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I relate because I'm not sure, but I was told I have ADHD. I haven't been officially diagnosed, by the way.
No, you must be, surely.
But I think, we've explored this in our previous podcast about how, I zone out when the conversation is not valuable, but I can hyper focus when it matters.
Yeah.
So which is it, and so when I see this person who's fidgety, I mean, I'm not fidgety somewhat, because I related to this person because I do fidget, but out of anxiety, not out of anger. I do have, like, especially before a team meeting or a delivery, go no go, we call it.
Yeah.
I get a bit fidgety, like, okay, I've got everything under control, and I notice my leg will start moving like this, and then my whole body goes like this.
So you're suppressing the anxiety, and it's showing up physiologically into your body. Right. But the reasons to be anxious, they get a free pass to continue to exist.
Yeah.
Without scrutiny. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that's why, and then the meditation bit as well, because I'm trying to get into that now because I'm dealing with a couple of things, and sometimes closing your eyes and just, so a lot of things resonated with me when we were talking.
Do you remember when I was sharing the 8-step process, and I said that the first 3 steps, connect fully, understand first, and understand well, that discipline is the most difficult, especially, if you can't focus because you've got a volcano in you of suppressed emotion and, unresolved challenges, and a lot of assumptions formed from that make you cope badly, right? So it's just a whole bundle of, it's a feedback loop. You're stuck in a loop, aren't you? Because the coping keeps the drama, your suppression of your emotions keeps you tolerating the drama and coping badly to make it worse, which creates more drama. So it's just such a horrible, it's like a hamster wheel.
It is.
But when I talk about those first 3 steps, I want to share with you a story of what made me somehow get to a point where I can just sit and listen. And by the way, I'm not perfect, but I have this default where I can just absorb and absorb and absorb without certainty. And that is a real discipline. You see, normally we want...
Without certainty.
Yeah, because the brain wants certainty, right? So if you say something, I should be tempted to jump to a conclusion because I want to know where you're going, what you're trying to say.
Right.
Right? I can't just keep listening and just hold in my RAM, random access memory, enough of the bits to finally get a sense of completeness of your point of view.
Right.
Right? I'm jumping to conclusions, I'm interrupting, all this sort of stuff. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to say you with me for a reason, don't I? I'm accommodating.
Because Because I drift away.
Are you with me? And then your subconscious answered me, yeah, tell him we are. While they're in
Respond, Azlan, now!
while they're in the back room playing cards, smoking cigarettes, going,
Cigars.
bullshit, you're cheating.
Yeah. But yes, continue. I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm trying to give you the space to express yourself, George.
Express yourself. Anyway, for 15 years, and even before that, but I became conscious of the hour and a half free session that I gave to people. Because you know what's weird? I look forward to free sessions. Why? I actually like meeting new people. I love hearing new stories. I love hearing about people's dreams. Strangely, I'm doing it for free, but I actually love it, But anyway, do you know that I allow 45 minutes of that 90 minutes where I'm a sponge and I just keep asking questions and I listen? I have bad days where I get too excited and I see dots joining and I interrupt and share, and I'm not proud of myself for everyone out there. And look, they think it's value, but I just feel like I know the discipline of waiting and not pulling the trigger too much. Sometimes I feel like I make it a little bit too much about me realizing stuff that I think they would love to hear, and not enough about where they're at, where they think they're at, and going deeper and deeper into it. Anyway, I regressed into self-confession. The whole point of that story is that I had a lot of practice, like every day, right? Practice shutting up, listening. And many times, like countless times, I was getting to the 30-minute mark, the 35-minute mark, not knowing where it was going, how I could be of help, where they were really stuck.
Ooh.
Like I couldn't join the dots. And do you know what allowed me to persist being a sponge?
No.
I knew that delayed gratification of seeing the dots join was not going to last. I knew that. And I swear to you, sometimes it'd be 45 minutes, 50 minutes, even up to an hour. And then bang, it all started to join. And I started to see the clarity of what was going on and how they were captured in a way. Do you know what I mean? And then I became super clear about, and then I would say to them, so are you saying this because does this happen? Then I start predicting and they go, yeah. And so they probably think I'm a psychic, but I'm not. I'm intuitive and I can see things, but it's not what I'm doing at that time. I'm just trading on the patterns, of things are predictable when you see a lot, the algorithms of someone functioning. And they go, yeah. And then I go, okay, so this is what I'm seeing because of this. Mm-hmm. This is how we would work together, blah, blah, blah. And, because of that discipline over a decade and a half, I got used to being patient and confident to just listen and mine deeper and deeper. And I feel I'm very grateful that life threw me into that circumstance to have been trained that way. But most people are not trained that way.
I'm not trained that way.
But I think it would be great for people to be trained that way. Maybe each individual, we can discuss a biohack to start flexing that muscle of listening longer, collecting more information.
Okay, let me ask you this then. This is very timely because I got a friend who wants to call me tomorrow to talk about some of their problems.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I feel when I listen to someone speak, I immediately feel like I need to be of value here and provide a solution. Otherwise, why are you talking to me? Why don't you just talk to somebody else out there? Why me? That's one of the things that I feel like, especially when they keep raffling on and on and on, I immediately feel like, okay, I need to be of value to this person. Let me suggest this, even though I don't understand where it's going. And you're right. I know that what that feeling you're talking about, that feeling of, well, where is this going? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
It feels a bit naked.
Yeah.
Sort of like
vulnerable.
Yeah. Like
You feel vulnerable because
I need an out.
You're gonna look like a dick if they're sharing all this stuff. You go, I got nothing.
Yeah,
I got nothing
exactly.
for you.
Exactly. And they speak to you thinking, oh, you maybe have experience in this. You have a podcast now, and so I'm a bit worried because this person's got a lot of issues, and so speaking to me, and I don't even know why I'm chosen for this, to be honest. So
Make sure you release this recording after you speak.
yeah, definitely.
No, so that he's driving, he's driving and listening to this, and he knows he's about to talk to Azlan. He goes, "Damn it, Azlan!"
Yeah, but I don't have that. I like what you said about how you knew that the dots are going to join. Because it's not going to last. That period of uncertainty is not going to last. And I don't have that in my psyche. So I want to try that tomorrow and put this to the test and just try to risk it and see what happens with because we know there's a subconscious, there's a universal power beyond us that will do all of that thinking, processing. We're just like the vehicle for it to do whatever it needs to do, and then it'll calm down, right?
Yeah.
So I get that. So I'll try that tomorrow, and I'll see I'll try to refrain. But I think with talking to you, I've practiced quite a lot of being quiet.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life.
Yeah. But have you noticed that slowly, maybe moments of achievement, you were quiet, but you were also present longer, more often, versus I say something and it makes you think of something and you're off on a tangent,
Mm-hmm.
And we all are going to always be a work in progress around, is what we just heard too exciting to us at that point because of what's going on in our life? So we quickly join the dots and we're off in our own fairyland on the value of it, versus not being distracted and staying with what you're hearing and letting the rest of the information absorb and register,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's a vacuum thing, but the more you commit to being a sponge, a quality sponge, I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the way I see it, right? If I give you half a story, how good is your advice going to be?
Half as good.
Worse. Really, it's not going to be half
That's
as
true.
good. It's going to be off.
Way
It's
off.
going to be almost
right, because I don't have the
pointless.
full story.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly,
what you're saying.
right? Yeah, that was very linear of you to say that.
I was from a public school, so I saw half and half, and I was like, okay.
That was not very multidimensional,
No,
was it?
sorry.
Anyway, if I listen to you up to 90%, there's a good chance that I collected enough data so that whatever assumptions I'm making for that last 10%, they might be okay. They might be reasonable. You know what I mean? But here's the thing. If I collect that extra 10%, there's a depth of finding things that, because I ask more questions, because I mine deeper, there's a world of information that I chose to expose to you and to me. You see, a lot of people, when they're sharing with you, they have no idea how much they're not sharing that would help them and you better understand. So it's not about what they have to say. It's about what else are they not sharing that they don't realize that is a part of this situation.
But the only way for you as a listener to know that is through experience, because I wouldn't, a teenager would know that, to ask, how do you bring that to the forefront of the discussion to go, are you trying to say, like what you usually do with me, you know what to ask.
Yeah, but
that's a skill, right?
But we're not asking each individual to be able to understand anyone without no lived experience. It's unfair.
Yeah. Fair.
You're not asking a young adult, a teenager, to go to a 40-year-old and talk about relationships. That's a bit unfair, But they maybe can talk to the 40-year-old about what it's like being a teenager of a parent, because I've got lived experience and
Yeah.
it's relevant then. And maybe that 40-year-old could learn a lot from that teenager around what it's like to be parented with all the issues of a teenager.
In this era.
Yeah. So it is about, you must respect the lived experience. And if someone has had enough lived experience in different areas of their life, they start to get a feel for the patterns of life overall, which means they can almost predict and extrapolate in a new area where they don't have lived experience, whether those patterns are there, and they find them. So we talk about the fractals in that way, right? So often a coach can be very relevant as if they have lived experience in an area simply because they've got enough in other areas that are very similar that they apply it there as well. But anyway, going back to this ability to go deeper, I learned a long time ago, and I was trained, that you don't sell to people, you understand them, and then you formulate the solutions, right? And I learned that instead of spending 10% of your time trying to understand their problem, 40% of the time trying to convince them that your products are good for them, and 50% of the time chasing them up, nagging them, trying to close the deal, that you should flip it the opposite way and spend 50% understanding them, 40% developing the solutions from that deep understanding, and then that 10% at the end is they're closing themselves because they were a part of the journey to match, you know, what will truly be good for them. And that principle in sales is the same principle in solutions for each other, isn't it? Like, it doesn't matter if you're selling a product or an idea of approaching a challenge in your life differently. It's just selling ideas like selling products. So yeah, definitely test it and be an observer. Be aware of how you're doing it and think, what else would I need to know here to help me better understand what they're sharing?
Right. So that's the question you ask yourself. Okay, let me give it a crack, and I'll let you know next week, like how I.
And you know what else would guide you?
So if that person was resentful towards another person, so how to understand? I'll understand what that person did. I'll understand where that person is coming from. Why that person feels that way about the other person. What caused it? If there's any suppressed emotions, like, you know, those kinds, just to better understand the whole situation as opposed to.
Yeah, you know, like, I think we do this instinctively anyway. But when you're talking to someone and you're trying to be of value to them because they've got an issue or whatever and they're offloading, you know, aren't we meant to try to understand the way they are perceiving this situation? We are, aren't we? It's like, how are you seeing it? And they are hoping that you see it differently, that you'll see something they don't see. So this is it's almost like, you know how dogs sniff each other's asses?
Where are you going with this, Josh?
No,
I'm not going to sniff his ass.
Sorry, that was just an ADHD moment where I just went to...
I went straight to the visuals of me smelling my friend's ass. So I don't know where you're going with this, George. I don't know what's going on here.
I love that. I love the fact that I delivered that and I decided, you know what, stuff it. I'm going to pause and I'm just going to let this guy hang with that visual.
You got me.
So it's like sniffing each other's perceptions.
Right. Okay.
Oh, you couldn't join that dog at the time? The dog's ass was too prominent?
It was, for me, it was a Doberman. I don't know why. It was straight away went to a Doberman.
Oh my God. Big ass.
Oh God. Okay. Anyway, so sniffing perceptions. Okay. Got
Sniffing each other's perceptions.
Perspectives. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Which is like perspectives. And therefore you have to know what shapes the perception. And we've been talking about that forever. You know, perception is literally, how are you interpreting the environment? What are you assuming that shapes the way you interpret? Therefore, what are your blind spots? Because I can see things you obviously are not seeing, and vice versa. So that's just all about sniffing each other's perceptions. Is this the title of the podcast now? Sniffing each other's perspectives.
How to sniff another person's perspective. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. So, I mean, coming back to what we talked about, you know, assumptions being Lego bricks. what are the assumptions that you have of this person that makes you think of this person this way? But not obviously not asking it indirectly like that, but when you're listening, I like that.
And then what happens is that you start to hear that, and then you go, what assumptions exist underneath that, so that if you actually assume that about that person, what are you assuming about what that means to you and how therefore you need to react and be? You see, it's one thing to assume something, it's another thing to expose the coping toolbox of apparently how you should behave and be when you think someone is something.
Okay, let's
particular.
Let's put this in a practical sense, because I'm having trouble understanding this from a practical point of view.
What a shame. It was so clear to me.
So, okay, example being, let's just say one of the things I felt way back when, like, that this person is incompetent. All right?
Oh, yeah.
And so this person is incompetent. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my assumption is this
I've
person.
got a drawer of examples. You just pull out the drawer.
Yeah.
Here's one I used 5 times earlier.
I remember quite a bit, but this one here, I'm just trying to understand how does it fit into that situation where you go, this person is incompetent, and then okay, why do you assume that this person is incompetent? Well, because let's say she is 50 years old, and she's done this before. She should know what she's doing. How can you not know this? How incompetent can you be? Everybody else I know does this. This person's a loser.
Oh, yeah. So therefore, this person is not doing what I would assume someone in their position should already know and do.
That's right. That's the assumption of that person.
That means they are a loser.
Yeah. So coming back to your example of the assumptions beneath what does that mean? So what does that mean?
Yeah. So if someone doesn't know something that they should, you then go to the toolbox and go, oh, you're a loser spanner. I need to now deal with this person as a loser.
Right.
Not as someone who somehow managed to miss a skill, or maybe it's that someone is stressed and they're not thinking straight. So even though they do know it, their brain's perception distorts, and they're making really dumb mistakes that they're even ashamed of, and probably kicking themselves. Like, who knows? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know that situation, but all those things are legit for us every day. So the whole point is that you're trying to find what is the full suite of assumptions that all interconnect in the way you're operating, the way you're thinking, feeling, and acting, because that is the dance you're in, right? Every action, opposite, equal reaction. You're dancing in a situation, and you don't like the dance, right? Because it's jarring, it's conflict. You're stuck. It's like one foot is nailed to the dance floor, and you're just going in circles. It's not a really good dance.
So understanding the assumptions beneath the assumptions and then working your way through that. Do not have to solve it. I just have to understand it for 30 minutes at least. Then the jots will join.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised what you discover. Do you remember I said to you that in leadership there was an exercise that we were asked to do? This was a long time ago.
To be silent.
You have to ask 20 questions in a row, and you're not allowed to interfere. That was a technique to force the discipline of only listening. Sounds hard, doesn't it?
It sounds hard. It's so hard.
It is hard, because every time I get people to practice it, they face plant. They start making statements. I go, no, that's a statement. That's not a question. And then they go, oh, damn it. Then they have to go again. So the brain has to retrain to learn the discipline of just asking questions.
And stop jumping to conclusions.
Do you want me to practice on you? Do you want me to ask you 20 questions in a row?
Okay.
But can I be an interrogator? That'd be more fun. No, I'm just kidding. That defeats the purpose of understanding.
Okay. This is going to be... Oh, man.
Or why don't you practice on me? On anything you want. Like, either way, we should practice.
Yeah. Okay. there's something that hits home. I don't want to bring this whole conversation down to a dark place, but yeah, there's been a few things happening in my close realm of people getting, terminally ill and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm having to deal with grief.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how would you deal with that? Because how do you stay quiet for 20 questions questioning about my grief without
All right, let's see how I go.
Okay.
Firstly, what's your understanding of grief?
I feel like once we die, there's going to be a place that's loving, that's going to accept us, and we're going to be in a nice space. So my view of the afterlife is very positive. I'm not afraid of the afterlife. I welcome it. So that is my belief about what happens if that person goes and passes, right?
Yeah.
They'll always be loved. No worries. But then I grieve because I feel guilty and I feel like I didn't spend more time with this person. And the other thing that I felt was I should feel sad that this person is dying. I should feel sad.
So
How can I be happy?
So what emotions do you feel if you're not feeling sad?
Happy. I mean, if I didn't know about the news, I would be happy. But now I feel like I have to be sad. And I spoke to this person and I said, I almost feel selfish that do I need to stop on my dreams of being a YouTuber, having those aspirations? Should I just sit here and be sad for you and for our circumstance, And this person said, no, Azlan, you just do what you need to do, and, your path, this is your path, you follow your path. And then I sat with that feeling and I felt, I told my wife, I still feel like I need to grieve. I don't know why. It feels a sense of sadness. And it's killing my mojo.
So are you trying to force an emotional state upon yourself out of obligation?
I think so. I think so. Out of society's how can Azlan be happy if somebody around him is terminally ill? How is that fair to that person? That's my assumption.
So if you appropriately feeling what you should, does that mean whenever someone is going through a very bad, potential fatal situation, does that mean everyone they know should hold space of sadness and get away from their everyday passions?
I see what you're doing here. That was a very good question.
It was a question.
That's a very good question.
Sticking to the rules.
That's 5 now.
Is it 5 questions? Yeah. Have I asked 5
You've
questions?
You've asked for 5 questions.
Wow,
I'm counting on my fingers.
Okay.
So that's I see what you're doing now. The answer to that question, that's a very good question, is no. It's no. I mean,
why not?
Well, that one person.
That's 7 questions.
That's 7. Yeah. It's not fair. It's not fair for you to expect everyone around you to be sad and to hold off on their dreams, because death is a good thing anyway. And people have to move on with their lives. I would want that for people if they found out I had cancer, to go on and to do what you need to. In fact, if anything, it should motivate you more to do what you want to do with your life, because time in this physical realm is perceived as limited. I get that. So if anything, it should be the opposite effect. You should go out and do whatever you want to do, because time is limited in this physical body. Go ahead. I don't want you to be sad.
If someone feels sad, do you then get confused?
If I had cancer?
Or someone they knew had cancer, do you get confused by their emotion?
No.
Why not?
Well, because there's a perceived sense of loss. And again, I'll come back to my view of the afterlife. I know there's no real loss, but there's a perceived sense of this person is going to die soon, and therefore there's going to be loss. So therefore, I feel sad. Okay, good. You can feel sad. Go ahead.
Are you framing loss is whether someone gets extinguished into non-existence versus existing elsewhere out of your reach? So when someone dies, are you saying that there is no loss.
Physical loss, yes, for sure. Presence, definitely there. I mean,
Just physical?
emotional, spiritual. There will be that moment of, oh, this person is gone. And even the greatest teachers feel that sense of loss because it's real. It's what you see, hear,
And
smell,
how does
and
it
touch.
make them feel when they feel that type of loss?
Grief, sadness, depression.
Why?
I don't know. Physically, that person's gone. I mean, what else is there? I mean, there's no other way of saying it. There is a
Why do they feel the loss?
This is a hard one. I don't know because that person's. I mean, physically, it's not because they feel like they've lost a part of them, or they've lost the person that they used to do things with. Their experience.
So they do things with.
Yeah.
Did they value the things they did with that person?
Right. Sure.
Did they value the way that person was in their life?
Yeah, for sure. Because if not, then why would they grieve if another stranger just died? So what?
So some people are closer to some people and receive a lot more value from the person. That
Yeah,
passes
definitely. Yeah, I mean that's a given. I receive more value from, anyone, my wife or anyone, than a stranger on the street crossing the road. For sure. Yeah. Last one.
So therefore, it depends on how much receiving of value that person was for you in your life.
Ooh, nice one. Yes.
That you would therefore grieve the most. Is that how it works?
Yeah. But the value doesn't die though. My value with this person doesn't die because it's not a day-to-day transaction. It is more of this is where I aspire to be. This person is where I aspire to be. The value will always be there regardless of if it's alive or not,
But that value of conceptual is one layer. Are there other layers of value like affection, discussion, acts of generosity, acts of surprise, humor? Are there multiple layers?
There are multiple layers.
That then get switched off?
Yeah.
There is. And then therefore, what is grieving?
When everything turns off, all the value, the sustainable value exchange breaks.
And is the sustainable value exchange a big deal?
Yeah, for sure.
And it broke?
It broke.
That's a big deal. And therefore, if people feel it, how deeply do they feel something so important?
All right, you've done it. You're 20 questions, 25 now.
Yeah. All right, so let's debrief that. Right, let's debrief. At what point of the question count did we start to get you and me into a place of understanding why you had a complicated relationship with grief?
I think 11 when you asked me about.
Okay. So at the 11 mark, we started to open up stuff, yeah? But I was committed, the marathon. I didn't know whether it was going to happen at 11 or 20.
I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? And also, I was genuinely interested. I really was interested in sniffing your perception. It was I care about you. I want to know. Because, you see, you do care. Which is why you would ride guilt for not being someone that has the optics that you're a good person, because you know you're a good person. But you don't look good when you can't force yourself to feel sad. Do you know what I mean? But the point here is maybe not everyone dying is the appropriate emotion, sadness for you. Because there was no sustainable value exchange that was material in your everyday life with them. But it was for others. So therefore, you could just dial into that and hold space for those people because you care about their pain. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
And then maybe you could even be sad for their sadness. You know how, like, when someone passes away and you feel down, you can't say it's sadness, but you just feel cautiously just still and solemn kind of thing. Then the person, their partner, starts to talk and get emotional about losing them. But you're close to that person, and suddenly you start to get emotional. And you start, because it was them and what they're going through that affected you. You see what's interesting about that? Like, we're captured by the people we care about. And if someone's not in our life as much as we want the best for them, it's very hard to fake them going is going to be of any material impact to your everyday life for the rest of your life. It's very hard to fake that. And a lot of people feel obliged to fake it. I mean, what percentage of people go to a funeral and are actually acting sadder than what they really feel?
That's a good point.
I would say, unfortunately, a lot, and not because they are dishonest and they want to, it's because they just don't want anyone to think that they're not a good person. But they just can't force themselves to feel burdened by the loss of that person. But at the same time, they'll tune into the people they care about who were closer to that person and feel the grief and the sadness, and then that helps them participate in the support in an authentic way.
Right. Unless the person who's organizing the funeral changes the theme of the funeral from loss to a celebration of that person's life. I've seen funerals I've been to where it's a celebration.
Yes, and I think
and people are laughing and it's great. At the party, I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah, but they first validated the loss.
Yes.
So, they go through
the
that coffin is a powerful friggin' in your face, symbol of the ending of someone's life, and you'll never interact with them ever again. Maybe AI, but you won't. You just won't, right? And therefore, by the way, I know that people have afterlife medium and they can kind of tune into, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's just small. It's glimpsy. It's not really the depth
material
of that person right there engaging you with a full stream.
Playing Mario Kart.
Of value exchange, exactly. So, in my culture, we've got wailing. Like, women will wail and it goes through my spine, Azlan. Like, it just put it. The small little hairs off my back will just stand up. You can just feel your goosebumps. And you feel, oh my gosh, that wailing just hits home the depth of loss some people are feeling, because that person was almost everything to them in the way they're experiencing that loss. And so. But where's the counterbalance? Because like when we first started this conversation, you said, but they're not dead. They just dropped the body. They're on the other side. Let's just get on with life, but celebrate them. They're not dead. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. And a lot of people don't have that access that you have to that amazing insight, But I reckon both are important in balance. Validate the genuine loss for either yourself and those you care about with that person. Then genuinely celebrate what memories that person created with people in the room and what legacy they left behind in their contribution. And and celebrate life and celebrate their life, knowing that we're here with a bat of an eyelid, we are gone in relative terms.
Is that how you coped with grief, with death?
Of
I
not-
like that idea.
Of what? Of not knowing people died.
No, as in, is that your process to I like that process because I've never really thought about. So you said about how, you validate your emotion that there is a physical loss there.
Yes,
You
yes.
feel sad. And then you immediately go think about what can I celebrate for this person? How can I, what
Yeah.
are the things that we can celebrate?
Yeah, because I remember when my grandfather passed away, I was about 15 years old.
Right.
Right? And I lived with him and my grandmother for 5 days a week and weekends with my folks because they were immigrant, 12-hour day factory workers trying to build a life,
Yeah.
right, in the 80s. And my grandparents would take us to primary school for the first 15 times, when I was in third class where we moved to, and my brother was first class, and they would walk us to school. It was like a good, I think, 15-minute walk to get to school, and they would walk us to school. And then my grandfather would come and walk us back. Like there was such love, And I remember with lung cancer, I was massaging my grandfather's feet, and to be honest with you, I didn't enjoy it because I'm a kid. I don't want it, But I loved him so much that my obligation, my duty was so strong that made me proud that I could be there for him in ways that it mattered for him as he deteriorated in the last 12 months, right? Now, when he died, I cried, and I didn't cry since that time for a long time after that, but I cried then. And then I remember within a day with his children, my aunties, uncles and all that, and we're getting together and there's crying. Suddenly we'd be talking about life with him and his nuances and his impatience. Like he'll eat food while it's still cooking on the pot because he just couldn't wait to eat. It's like, how does he do that? He doesn't care if it's half raw. He's eating, He was up at 5 a.m. every morning within the garden, big veggie garden, right? So anyway, and they were laughing.
Right.
His own children were laughing within 36 hours of his death. Laughing hysterically at certain stories. And I remember having mixed feelings. I remember going, oh my gosh, I get the laughter and I feel the funniness and the joy. This is real and I need to have it with them and I'm having it. But at the same time, I feel it's wrong. It's like, why are we laughing? We should only be sad. And I remember, back then and since then, with many deaths, there's been a lot of, I've seen both. I've seen the laughter and the wailing and the sadness. And it's all in the balance of deep loss and the joy of having a lifetime with that person, a part of a lifetime.
That is so insightful for me because all the people that I've seen in the Asian cultures, they always talk about the bad when the person dies, even till today.
Yeah.
There's guilt. I didn't spend enough time with this person. We put this person in old folks' home. They deteriorated after that. It was our fault. We should have brought him home. But there was never a, he did this really, really well. I've never heard of those funny stories. And it's
very skewed towards guilt.
Yes. And so when I hear about death, immediately I feel, oh no, I have to live this life of guilt for the next 30 years of me not being a good person to this person. And it's never been about the celebration. The celebration happened at the funeral, but everybody else who's been to that funeral was like, oh man, we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that, we should have done. It's a lot of guilt. And then as they talk about their guilt, they cry, and I'm going, I don't want this. I don't want to remember. If I don't want to go through death this way. I acknowledge the sadness.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go through the next 20 years feeling guilt.
That's a lot of guilt.
It's a lot of guilt.
That's a lot of. If Rio Tinto and FMG and and be able to mine that much guilt over 20 years, gosh, no one would want to buy it from them. They have to put it back in the ground. Someone told us guilt was a trend, and we just mined it, and no one wanted it. Now, you know what? Guilt is a legitimate emotion. Unprocessed, it can last for decades. Processed, it can pass through you and finish its job in a graceful minute, in a graceful day, in a graceful week, depending on the circumstance.
I think that's the idea. How do you process guilt is one thing that I'm going to learn now, because I feel guilty for this other person in my life as well. It's like, could I have done this? Could I have done that? What if I did this? What if I made this decision?
Well, you know, when you're sniffing your own perception, what comes with that is your emotional states and how much of those emotions are suppressed, right? It's bringing our conversation full circle to when I told you this guy was on edge. It's like just a habit of ignoring your emotions. And it's like, do you ever feel anything for shits and giggles? Or do you feel something because your brain released those chemicals in your body because it thought it was appropriate? Exactly, right? The answer is you don't feel anything for nothing, okay? But if you keep feeling it over and over and over, eventually you're going to have to cope with the fact that it's distracting, it's not sustainable. And so what are you going to do? You're going to numb yourself. You're going to ignore it. You're going to you're going to use denial as coping. You're going to learn to suppress it, put it in a box, and move on.
Thank you for telling me this, because I made a conscious decision not to drink alcohol during this period because I want to sit with it. I just want to sit with this emotion and figure out. I think validating it is one thing, saying it's okay to feel sad. I have the right to feel sad. It's fine. But then I forgot about the celebration bit of it.
Yeah. And because you forgot about the celebration, you thought you had to make sadness your home.
Correct.
And you were rebelling against that.
Yes.
So then sadness got a bad rap, guilt got a bad rap, celebration was off the table.
Off the table.
It sounds like a clusterfuck to me.
Complete clusterfuck in my brain.
Okay, so suppressing emotion is nonsense. It has a purpose if you just need to cope in a situation and you don't have time to feel things too much because you've got to get through like a crisis. Suppress those emotions, absolutely. But ongoing habit of suppressing emotions is stupid. And so, for example, sadness has a place. Honor it. Guilt has a place. Could you have spent more time with that person? Do you genuinely have the emotion of regret because you were captured by life's distractions so much that you just didn't know that person had only 1 month left to go, and you would have loved just some quality closure with talking about their life and doing just some more few nice things? Do you genuinely value that and you feel like you've missed it, so you're going to process some guilt and regret there? Fine, do it. But then move through it. You see, if you move through it, the emotions aren't a problem anymore. You know, that's why I always talk about how kids, they'll chuck a tantrum, they're crying, they want something, and then, you know, they got tears coming down their face, and then suddenly they get distracted by something funny, and now they're laughing, but they've still got the tears on their face, and they're completely shifted into another emotional state.
Yes.
Children haven't learned emotional suppression. You see? So they glide through the emotional states with ease, and they move on, and they move on. And then eventually, when society conditions them to shut up, what you feel is not important, you know, hide it, it's shameful. Be a man, hide it, suck it up, suppress it. Basically, we're taught to disconnect from our own emotions. Now, having said that, if we processed our emotions with our evolved, mature reasoning, we would do it in our own time. We wouldn't make people suffer every emotional state we're feeling. We would allow ourselves to feel it in our bodies, and we would process it with
Yeah.
grace, and it would be timely, and we'd move through to the other side in a minute, in a day if it's a big deal, in a week if it's a very big deal. Do you know what I mean? And all of those processes are just a part of being human. But being human, man, we're just not good at emotional management.
I'm struggling, but I mean, there are other people who are struggling worse. But you're right. It is a tricky path.
You say you're struggling, but I'm not exaggerating when I say it's a human problem. Humanity. I'm talking about 8 billion people, including me. Like, if you just talk to my daughter and my wife, they'll go, "Oh yeah, George gets emotional," But actually, you know what's interesting? They want me to be even.
Even.
They want me to be even, like be always calm and easygoing.
Right.
But things will tick me off, and I'll just express it. I'll go, "What?" Like, calm down. But for me, I'm just expressing an emotion. It's not even a big deal. You see, anger
Yep.
is safe when you express it in the context while it's happening. Because if you say to someone, "This has made me angry. I actually feel really angry right now. And the reason I feel angry is this. It's because that happened when there was an agreement, and then that person changed the rules, didn't tell me, and now I'm left with this situation that hurts me. And if I continue to allow that to happen, I'm going to get hurt more and more and more, because that person will think it's fine to treat me that way. I'm angry. I don't want to tolerate that." Now, that is powerful way to express your emotion. Versus suppress it, volcano, intensity. Fuck, get stuffed. I'm sick of this. And express your anger out of control. That's not professional.
No.
In a business environment. That's not healthy in a family environment. So how come emotion gets a bad rap when we're the ones pushing it down until it has to explode out? And then we go, "See, emotions are bad. See, that person's you're emotional. That person's emotional."
People don't usually see that stage where they've suppressed it for so long and then it explodes. And I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I can relate to
They
that.
only see the end part.
Yeah. And then that's when the conclusion is very easy to make.
Exactly. It's the most in your face.
Yeah.
It's dialed up in your face. But no one sees that slow process that got you there. But what if we saw it? What if we got less numb and started to care about what we feel? Which is why when I said to that gentleman, "When was the last time you closed your eyes and you were just in quiet and you just breathed out the tension and you just learnt to just be. And he looked at me like I was an alien. It's like, what? Now, let me get this straight. You have a brain that's active, but you have a brain that has a variability of increasing the activity and reducing the activity. Now, when you did EP7, when you reduce the activity, right, the rate of firing neurons into a slower pulse, it changes your mental state. And you start to feel and sense information that is even beyond space-time, called intuition. And intuition with imagination, so the delta is intuition, theta is imagination. When those two at the lower range, like just above 0 to 4, then 4 to 8 for theta, for imagination, right? When you're in that range of slowness, why is it in the meditative state where that brainwave pulse in that range allows you to be more intuitive, allows you to pop ideas that make you explode out of meditation? Why is it the cocoon where you've stopped being that which is noisy for the same thing, and you stopped in the stillness of a cocoon that you can imagine flying, and you transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly? Why? Why is nature showing us that the stillness is powerful and we're against it? We're offended by stillness. I've got ADHD. It's like, yeah, you don't want to have ADHD, but your brain thinks that ADHD behavior is appropriate, that you should be on edge, that you should be restless, and that you shouldn't focus easily, and that you should turn your attention somewhere else from where you are at that point, and that there's nowhere to mine deeper. There's no 20 questions to take you to a better place of understanding for you and others. We're just like grasshoppers, just skipping on the surface, you know, and popping pills because it's painful to be shallow, is it not?
Yeah.
It's painful to be shallow.
It's very painful. I'm so glad we had this conversation today, because I was in the shower yesterday and I was thinking the only way for me to stop this is through meditation, because my mind goes racing, and it's almost an element of surrender when you close your eyes and you just breathe and let. It's almost like, you know, we talk about RAM, you know, processing, CPU. It's like all of these things is happening, and then you just leave it, just surrender, you know, take it, you know, I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to breathe, and then get the ideas from after this process is done its thing, come back to me and talk to me, you know, like I'm just going to sit down here, because your mind, you know, I was racing yesterday. I'll tell you why after this podcast, but basically it was
top secret disclosure.
It was a very, very turbulent day yesterday, where there was money talks involved. There was another tune, you know, somewhere else. So you were going, what is happening here? And so, you know, I had a chat with another person as well, and I was like, wow, there's too much. There's just too much for me that I can't control.
Yeah. That's very telling.
Outside of my control.
That's very telling.
Can't do it.
Exactly. And if you can't control it, you're in danger.
Yeah.
But are you? And then the next 20 questions start.
No,
but you see what I mean?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So you know what we're doing when we're being still? We are confronting deception.
Confronting deception?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, when we're managing perception, we are exposing deception, because distorted perception is being distorted from deception. The deception that you should not pay attention to someone's feelings. You should not pay attention to their tone. You should magnify their words as an attack. There's a lot of assumptions that are deceiving you around who you are, how you should be, what world you're in. It's a deception management issue. Self-deception is the ultimate, because we are willing to believe we're not that worthy. And that is a pretty big lie that humanity has learned to habitually swallow. Insecurity. If I can't control, I'm in danger. Well, look closely. What are you trying to control? The moment you dismantle what you think you should be able to control, you realize you don't have to control none of it. You just have to decide who you want to be in it and amongst it, and use your creativity and intuition to be of value, and let it go wherever it's meant to take you.
It's just so unfair, you know, because I'm on this path of reinventing myself, and now I have to reinvent again in this scenario. You know, like a double reinvention.
Perfectionism raises its ugly head again.
No, but I was on a path.
It's so unfair. Did someone tell you the world was fair? The world is
Yeah.
not, but the world is not fair.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I was on a trajectory. Like I was doing my skits once a week, and then now this hits, and now I have to reinvent myself now again.
Yes, but you can be more relevant with your next reinvention.
Yeah.
The reinventions aren't meant to be a chore. They're meant to be an opportunity to go to another level where you are more connected, where
Maybe
you...
this is one reinvention. Then it's not a multiple, because I thought it was multiple, and I said I just had one reinvention. Now I've got another reinvention.
I didn't even know what you're talking about. Like, what other reinvention and what is this new reinvention?
So, okay, the first reinvention is my relationship with my humor and how I thought, you know.
No, but that's its own part of you reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
That's legit.
So I've got there. I've gotten to a point
Yeah.
where there's meaning, there's purpose, there's value. I get it. There's joy in me doing the skits. Great.
Yeah.
I was on a roll.
Yeah, I'm
And
with
then
you.
bam, this thing happened.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly had to reinvent my relationship with grief, my relationship with this person who's probably going to pass, my own emotions. I have to reinvent how I see this now in the middle of a current reinvention. You know, like, God damn it.
So what your brain does is it tries to keep everything in order. It's like, there's my reinvention box.
Yeah.
If I'm going to reinvent, that's where I'm reinventing.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff that's in the way needs to just be kind of like managed away from my reinvention space, right? But what if we redefine reinvention? Reinvention is simply, am I perceiving in this part of my life in a way that gives me meaning, allows me to be effective, allows me to enjoy the journey and achieve amazing destination points? Is my perception in this other area of my life also allowing me to feel the value exchange, to feel the sustainability? Or am I operating with a deception, a distorted perception that also needs a shift, a reinvention to a perception that can better serve me and those I care about? And so you can have multiple reinventions happening at the same time.
But through one lens of.
What do you mean by one lens?
Like you said, the idea of reinventing yourself every time to see meaning and value, regardless of what the circumstance is.
Yeah.
It could be death. It could be my relationship with
Yeah.
this. Could be my relationship. But
Yeah.
through one lens of what is the meaning and value. Like, you know, that
Like the real you, the observer, the one that decides, like a
Who I
diamond.
want to be.
I like the diamond idea because a diamond has many faces,
Yeah.
but that the center of the diamond is the essence of that diamond. And then every window of that diamond refracts light for a different experience of its reality. So you're a diamond. Oh,
I'm a
you're so
diamond.
precious.
I'm a diamond work in progress. I'm realizing.
You're a lab-grown diamond. Did you realize that?
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I'm realizing that I was looking at the facets as but I wasn't focusing from the core, realizing that all these all the circumstances comes in, and based on how I perceive and how I make meaning out of it, then it shines out differently. But I was looking at one facet of the diamond going, this is my transformation.
Yeah. Right.
So now I've gone from outside in to now inside out.
Yeah.
So now I don't feel so unfair anymore, because I felt like I was on a path of I just got over this. I'm doing it. I'm getting the skits out. I'm confronting my fear of judgment of other people. God damn it! Now this one comes in, and then I have to like, oh, no, now what? You know, do I stop everything? But if I saw it through that lens, I can get meaning out of it still. I like it.
Yeah. And you know what? You've achieved so much beautiful stuff for you on your timeline from the reinvention of your relationship with humor. But now there's another shift for you on your timeline around your relationship with people and family.
It happened within 3 months.
Yeah, but life is messy, and being human is messy. And who do you want to be in that mess? You see, that is always on the table.
That is the focus lens. And I can relate to that because my first shift from humor, I understand that. I understand that. Okay.
Yeah.
I got my head right now. I got my head screwed on right now. Yeah.
So you know what I did yesterday? I'm pivoting. I created a MyGPT version called Bible Coach. Do you know why I did that? Because I was raised Christian to always, my mom and dad like, just read the Bible, just read the Bible. And look, I made a big, grave mistake.
You read the Bible?
I read the first 20 pages of the Bible, which was a bad move. You know why?
Why?
Abraham, son of Isaac, it just went on and on lineages. And I just didn't see the point of that. Maybe it was because it was building the credibility of you are receiving information that had generational pathways of real people that are bringing this information to you.
Right.
You know, maybe it was that, but I was learning nothing from father of this, father of that, on and on. It just wore me out as a young teenager. So I put it down, I don't think the Bible's for me. Having said that, all my life being exposed to different parts of the Bible, I know most of the stories and all this sort of stuff, right? So I knew that there was a lot of insights and fractal patterns being taught through Jesus and others. So what I did was I downloaded a PDF of a Bible. I uploaded it into my GPT in the documents. I then instructed how this coach was going to engage whoever was using that. And it was a Bible coach. So you could seek understanding, argue with it, challenge it around where things don't make sense to you in the Bible. Because this was my gripe. Because it's all well and good to interpret the Bible one way and then someone else interprets it another way. And then now you've got two people fighting each other in different religions off the same book. It just didn't make sense. You know what I also thought I would want to do? Upload also the Quran and Judaism, the book, you know, from there, and have 4 or 5 scriptures across different religions, and calling it the scripture coach, the scripture coach, and therefore you could argue with it all, and it would compare across all scriptures.
That'd be a good idea.
It'd be better. But I just started with the Bible coach, and you know what was happening? I was literally learning how much the Bible has coded powerful information that has been grossly misrepresented by religion and repackaged in a way that started to counter the depth of wisdom in the actual Bible itself.
But whose perception is it looking at? It has to learn from something. Is it your perception? Like, how is it learning to, when you argue with it, where is it getting its data from to argue? Is it from
So what it does is it will scan the full text of a Bible, and it will see what patterns I'm referring to, and it will consolidate it into the conversation.
Right.
Which is really handy, you know?
Got it.
And so I'll say things like, why is the First Testament and Second Testament so different? And then it will give me, the first one is what is God, and the second one is who is God. You know, like what God's like. Who is God and what God's like, right? And so then I challenged it around, well, you know, isn't that the same thing? Who is God would pretty much determine what God's like. So what is really going on here? And I delve deep into it. You see what I mean?
Very exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting. And maybe what we can do is I'll update it to all the scriptures.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have a podcast where we get to challenge and try to find.
Let's do that.
It's
I'm
so
excited.
holistic. It's such a holistic way to do it. Because there's truth in these scriptures, but it's contaminated by so much ego and power tripping and institutionalized, you know, structures.
Self-interest.
Can I give you an example?
Sure, go ahead.
When Jesus sounded like a bit of an egomaniac, so I am the Son and I am the way, F you, had that tone of ego of, man, I'm the only Son and sucked in. You want to get to heaven, you got to go through me. I'm such an important person. It just it just felt wrong in translation. Now, it turns out the Hebrew meaning of these words is very different to the English translation. And you end up feeling the authenticity of love and equality of the message from Jesus saying, what I'm sharing with you is the path that makes me a part of God and you a part of God and that we are one. A very different message.
Oh, wow.
Than, I'm a big deal. And you need to come through me.
Oh, did not know that. So that's what's currently in the scripture, in the Bible.
So when I was arguing with AI around, hang on a minute, this comes across as ego energy, but I'm thinking he really means this, but that's not the way it's phrased in English. It then was pulling out definitions of Hebrew from where that statement came from and gave me the right definitions and sided with me.
Nice.
And I thought, wow, like what a wonderful way to engage scripture is to trust your gut, trust what feels right about a message, then say, but why is it written that way? Because it doesn't
resonate.
It says the opposite. It's almost the opposite.
I know what you mean.
Well,
just like how
that happened quite a bit.
It happened a lot. It happens. Everyone in the religion, regardless if it's Islam or whether it's, everybody has those questions. And I got out of it because I could not find an answer.
Well, then you and I should have some fun with this.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
I was hammered the shit out of it.
What?
I mean, I was asking all of the repressed questions.
Bit of emotions suppressed there.
Oh my God, was I angry when I was young? I was so angry because I had a useless teacher.
Yeah.
And he would draw boundaries and what do you call it when you split people up, like not bipartisan.
Favorites.
Like I don't know what it's called. It's like divisive.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, it's like
Who's
divisive. Polarizing.
And
he would and unfortunately my mom is Chinese.
Yeah.
So he was bitching about, the Chinese race and saying, oh, they smell like pork, their sweats is all pork.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's hardcore. And he would make us hate, he'd make us tease the Chinese kids. Like some guys who don't know any better, who got useless parents, they would go out and tease the Chinese kids. Oh, yeah, pork. Our teacher said you're sweating pork because you eat so much pork, you stink because of pork. And all of that stuff, and then it will teach you about wars and how you should engage in wars if it threatens the religion. And you're like, what the is this? And then it hates gays, and I'm like, no, I have a lot of gay friends. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like, no way. And I said, and I came to the conclusion where I said, if there was a God, I can do a better job than this current God. Because I love people more. And if these gay people died, come on.
Yeah.
Just come home. Yeah. Let's have a glass of Chivas. Let's sit down with whiskey and go, hey, you know what? You did well, man. You tried your best. Everything was great.
You lost me at Chivas, but anyway. You cheapskate.
So you can feel like how strong I am about this thing.
Yeah, we're similar. I think this is why we're doing this podcast. Yeah. Because we both are very passionate about justice, equality, and truth. And that anyone who's trying to push people down off labels doesn't feel right.
Doesn't feel right.
And labels are made to make people divided.
Yeah.
So I'm very wary of the labels. There's so much social constructs, it's such a sophisticated wiring into the brain that you live a reality where you see Asians and you have a feeling for who they are, how they're represented, how they behave. They're also captured by their own dominant cultural traits that they're told should have emphasis, like maybe task-orientated, very task-orientated, doing culture.
Doing.
Yeah, and that you are of no value without the doing. Correct. Kind of thing. Like examples like this. Other cultures are similar in that way too. But you go to Spain, Brazil, Lebanese, they're the feeling express yourself culture.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese would look at Lebanese and Spain and go, these people are useless. All they want to do is just express themselves and have a good time. They're not building nothing, you know. But yet, anything out of balance doesn't work, right? Because you got nothing. You haven't built anything for financial security if you're just, you know, living for the moment, spending all your money, Azlan. Anyway, but you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So much social constructs of who everyone is, what boxes to put them in, and then think about this for a sec. If you peeled it all back, right down to the suits we're wearing, skeletons, brains, fleshy brains, ligaments, muscle, neurons firing to just hold any idea. What is going on? We are all from the same source, and we fractured into so many differences, and then we wrapped ourselves around those differences and go, this is me, and therefore I'm the opposite to you, and my God is better than your God, and that's why I'm going to kill you. It's like, wow. It's just such a bizarre evolution of humanity, or I'd question evolution. You know what I mean? Not much evolving.
No, for the last 2,000 years.
More devolving.
To be fair, I think there's a lot more. I hate to use this word.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the progress that's happening that's trying to arrowhead. We're talking about, look at the last 500 years, 1,000 years.
2,000, 3,000, yeah.
Exactly.
It's
It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
And I think that the first testament of that Bible probably was trying to deal with the anarchy of the primal steal a wife, kill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like Moses has to freaking, I don't know how true this is, but he has to come back with like 10 commandments, right? This is why I like George Carlin, the comedian. He goes, 10 commandments? Why not 11? Why not 9? Because 10 sounds so official. People will believe 10.
10, yeah.
9 to go 9? Fuck that. That's not really. That doesn't feel real. I'm not believing those commandments. 11? Oh, that's a bit of an off number. I don't know. I'm not buying it. 10 is like, oh, it must have come from somewhere special. It's very complete.
Yeah, it's very complete.
Right? So, and then George Carlin, you got to watch this on YouTube, whoever is not knowing what I'm talking about. Watch 10 Commandments with George Carlin, right? Carlin, right? One of the best comedians. He will literally take you through every commandment and show you how 5 of them are the bloody same. Or like 3 of them are the same here, 2 are the same there. And he eventually reduces them just to 3. Just don't do bad shit to people.
Yeah, Moses wasn't very effective, was he?
Don't do bad shit to people that you wouldn't want done onto you.
Yeah.
That's it. The commandments are finished. We didn't need 10. You know? But having said that, the brain needs context. So I get why. So I honestly feel that the teachings of that time were manufactured to try to tame the out of control primal in the human journey, because spirituality was getting suffocated by the temptations of the flesh to want security, to want property, to want power, to propagate seed, and want the flesh, the desire for a woman. And if you liked a woman from another man, there was not enough social construct of etiquette of you don't do that. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you needed a top-down rule. Don't take another man's wife. He goes, what? Did you hear? Azlan, did you hear we can't take another wife?
No.
What kind of rules are these?
And you can have 4 wives.
Azlan, I can't live under these conditions. I average taking a wife every second month. Now all of a sudden I can't take wives? from other men. And
Yeah.
it's just quite interesting that it all is about the context of the time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I programmed into my GPT. I said, when you share any phrase from the scripture, you must also roll in the context of its time and the language of its time and the word meanings of its time, because otherwise we won't really get the depth of what's really being said. We'll get the surface level English layer where kings, queens translating, we're now turning script to control based on their times versus what was the true meaning. Because the true meaning, I'm gonna give it up now. Are you ready?
Let's go.
The true meaning, when you dig far enough in most of the messages in the Bible and other scriptures, is that you are divine and eternal, and you are part of the source, and you are part of the expansion through God's will with free will. You were given the free will to be who you want to be, but also live the sin of punishment that comes with your experimenting with that free will, so that you will use your free will, but it may disconnect you from yourself, it may disconnect you from God, and then that is an invention of evil, because suddenly the treacherous coping of thinking that you don't belong, you are not loved, you don't matter, suddenly you will become angry and vicious, and you will act like a devil archetype. And so the truth, when you really distill it down, is that the language, through all the different languages, through the scriptures, was trying to delicately bring humans back home to the understanding of their origins, so that they can appreciate the depth and dilemma between being flesh, bone, primal in a body that needs to exist in this environment, and the divinity of the unlimitedness and the eternal nature from which they came from.
That was probably the best explanation I've ever heard, or consolidation. And you said that all in one breath. Amazing.
To be honest with you, I'd never really put myself in a position to explain it.
Oh, wow.
That way.
It sounds like you have rehearsed it 1,000 times.
Yeah, no, that's the first time
I connected the dogs. The dogs. This is
Sniffing
what happened.
each other's
that's
asses.
right. It's your fault. But I connected the
Look at
dots.
us. We're talking about like beautiful teachings of the Bible and,
Yeah.
and sniffing each other's asses. Anyway.
But I
Keep it
connected-
real.
I like it because what you talked about was the devil archetype and sin and how it relates to it, not in a
Yeah.
traditional sense,
Yeah.
but in a sense of you deviating from your divine, build. It's not something that I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because like it's like, why would God
Yeah.
create a devil for shits and giggles? It's like, well, he didn't create the devil. One angel was fallen angel. That's the story,
Gabriel.
right? Yeah. It's like, okay, so why did an angel decide to fall? Why did the angel realize that I want to be like God? It's like, well, you can't. I am God. You're not. Like, do you have a flag? You can't claim this country without a flag.
Yeah.
Actually, that's another thing you should look on YouTube. Eddie Izzard flag.
I'll put it in the link.
It's so clever. Such excellent comedy about social constructs.
Got it.
It's like we're conquering a country, but I've got a flag. Well, you don't have a flag. Well, no country if you don't have a flag. What, you've been living there for 500 years? That doesn't matter. You don't have a flag.
No flag, sorry.
But anyway, coming back to the point,
Yeah.
I think that at any point that angel would have gone, yeah, this darkness that I'm starting to realize I'm in with a label of devil or whatever, I don't really think it's a good idea. I kind of miss the joy and the love and
Yeah, I see what you're
it's
saying.
like at any point the devil would have gone, God, Dad, Daddy, I was really bad. I get it. I get. I was really. Yeah, but like you took bad to a whole new level. I gave you free will. Damn, you dry hump that badness to depths that I'm God. I don't think I even fathomed you taking that deep. And it's like, Dad, I know. I didn't realize free will was such a sharp sword that I could cut myself into a billion pieces and still find more ways to cut myself out of connection with you. And I want to come home. I want to come home.
What was the ending to that? I don't know the full story. Did God allow in that scripture? Did God allow Gabriel to come home, or was he banished forever?
Well,
because I only watched Constantine, and
but right now they're maintaining the understanding that there is a hell and there's a devil. So therefore, no one went home.
Nobody went home.
Unfortunately, no good story. You got to control people. You can't say, "Oh, by the way, the story ends. We're all good now."
We're all good now. Right.
There's no hell. It's like no, because
the narrative.
Exactly, and the narrative, when you oversimplify it, it loses its beautiful nuance of everything outside of you is tucked in to the way you operate. So the universe, how spectacular it is, your inner verse is just as spectacular. Right? So therefore, it's all well and good for Elon to say, let's become intergalactic, which I think is pretty cool, great adventure. But there's as much depth of journey within with Supernova OS. Product placement right here, right now. Coming soon.
Coming soon to you on this podcast.
But yeah, like I really think that delving deeper is spectacular into ourselves to learn why are we being the way we are, and what more is there to us that is virtually unlimited. Do you know what I mean? Like we are a mystery to keep unraveling within ourselves, and generally we're not raised to do it because we're captured by these silos of deductionist thinking that oversimplify God, that oversimplify the meaning of life. Through science, everyone's just trying to put it into a neat bucket, and no one's looking at the elegant fractals and the true unified theory of everything needing to somehow fit in a beautiful way. They're not doing that, and I think what we need to do as people is we need to say enough of the silos. We need a multidisciplinary way of pulling these silos now, forcing them to reconsolidate how they fit into the system of the bigger picture.
Right.
And I think that's happening very slowly because there's a lot of ego involved. It takes a long time.
Oh, it's happening a lot now.
It is happening a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. There's
like
a lot of people that I know have got a unified belief now of we're all part of this energy, and there's a lot of people changing that now, and that's okay. You know, you like you said, you know, when you deviate from your source, that's when you start being evil.
But what I'm talking about is that the institutions are holding tight because their power base has been built
off that
to serve from that silo. And the moment they start to entertain how they fit with everything else, suddenly they'll realize half of their stuff is full of shit. Sorry, hate to burst your bubble, but you know, genetic determinism built most of Western medicine. It only got you so far, and now you're dragging the chain on epigenetics. It's embarrassing, you know? Like nature didn't just turn on and off genes for shits and giggles. Start explaining the beautiful nature of why genes get selected. Genes are primed for expression so that they're ready to serve you, but might not be expressing. But do you know what I mean? There are variables of which genes are tucked away because you're not going to use them at all, and it's more of a process to get at them to then build protein and function, while others passed down by our parents are more likely to be positioned where there's a stage of them that just express so that you can have your body, your eyes, the color, everything, you know what I mean? But then there's others that are ready to trigger, that are more exposed based on the environment that your parents had. Because remember, they're trying to gift you a foundation of genetic ability to express, to give you some form of biological head start, including personality traits, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's good. And we should appreciate that genes play a real role in what start you're given and what platform you're given and what you're exposed to and what can affect you differently to other people. Okay? But now, where is the conversation around what makes your genes regulate? You see, 500 genes are regulating at any one time because that's how nature works, right? So therefore, nature is all about every organism needs to be able to go to its little genetic, pool in the nucleus and select what genes it may need because it has to keep evolving to stay relevant. It's like, but it's always reading its outside environment to make sure the sustainable value exchange is at a level that it can survive and to thrive. And it's been gifted in the essence of what it is, the ability to tap the ideas of what to be, to give it an advantage where it may need it, to protect, to restore, to create a sustainable value exchange, right? And so that's what genes are for. Yet, for centuries, you are your genes. Genes just turn themselves on.
Yeah, it almost feels like a close-ended conversation when you talk about genes.
Yeah.
It's like a predetermined destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's just gifted because he's got good genes.
Yeah.
It was like, well, yeah, he may have been given a set of good genes that were appropriate in the environment that he's in because of the way his parents were raised, the way that the lineage was all raising themselves to believe in themselves, to see things in a certain way. So he's got good genes. But then how do you explain the 6-year-old that suddenly jumps on a piano and plays a concerto by Mozart or makes up their own and no one can get their head around
which gene it's from?
Yeah. And I think those anomalies are very inconvenient to science.
Yeah.
Because they break the ether connection to source.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have an integrated theory that allows for possibilities, unlimitedness, that can actually bleed through us into quantum leaps for who we are and what we can achieve.
It's a lot better view. It's a way better perception though to come from that belief system as opposed to the predisposition that you are who your genetics say you are. I like it. I guess the question now that I have is like, can you actually change your I need to read more about this genetic stuff, but I like where you're coming from. It gives you more hope that, you know what, I'm not just what you guys say I am. I have more.
You know what I think? Azlan, is that the heart field, like a magnetic field, when your heart is given a chance to truly express, the meaningfulness is so rich, the signal is so potent that you will evolve and you will tap into whatever genes you may need to ensure your heart's desires to create a meaningful life eventuate.
Yep.
So we are designed so that we're never going to be shortchanged the design functions we need to evolve into whatever form we need to. It's not about changing eyes from brown to blue or green because culture says you're more desirable with colored eyes. It's not about the pettiness of cosmetics. It's about the depth of will I have access to function of more intuition, more creativity, a heightened sense of feeling, a heightened sense of right to perceive my environment, where I want to be, where I want to feel better connected, more informed, and flow into being a greater value in the value exchange. This is really the way I feel humanity wants to tick. Not, can I get my genes to make me look better? Or, it really is about the depth of meaning of who we want to be to ourselves and each other.
Well said.
It's just a theory.
Have to explain for almost 20 minutes. No,
That's just a wild theory.
But let's do that in our next podcast. Let's this Bible coach, is it ready?
It's ready, but I haven't added. I'm going to see if I can add those other documents, and
See what happens.
and then I'll evolve it, and then we'll play with it.
That's gonna be fun.
Cool.
Wow.
Good chat.
It was going down the dog theme with the dry humping and the ass smelling. But
Wait until we're 10 podcasts in from now. I'm just going to get raw.
Yeah.
More dairy.
I mean, what's funny? Like as the podcast goes on, I feel like I'm more and more relaxed and more authentic.
That's
now.
what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
At the start, it was very different. Now it's like, okay, you know what? Screw all of you. I'm just gonna be me, and I don't really care.
Do you have
anymore.
to screw everyone though?
Yeah, that's a bit drastic, but it's really good because like I'm also more relaxed, and I think coming across just being us. I hope you guys appreciated that session, and feel free to leave your feedback and share this with anybody that you think will resonate with a lot of what we're saying. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Ciao for now.
Thank you for joining the Reinvent You show.
And remember, don't take yourself or life too seriously.